Okay, so welcome along to another Dicker Data Training Academy event. My name is Robert Crane and my contact details are there on the screen for you if you need to get in contact with me for any reason. Please note that we have started the webinar and I am recording it as I mentioned. That will be made available to you after the fact, again along with the slides. If you have any questions, it's generally best to address those directly to microsoft.sales@dickerdata.com.au. You can certainly type them in the chat and we'll try and answer them if we can, but please be aware that the focus is on giving the presentation. Any questions should be directed to the email address listed there, or again, anything specific can be directed to me as well. Okay, so again, this is another in our ongoing series of weekly webinars running on Wednesdays from 11 to around 11:45. We'll be talking about mobile device management today, and then the following week we'll be looking at introduction to Azure. So we've done an initial introduction around Azure with Office 365, but we'll go into the full Azure product in more detail next week. The week after, we'll be looking at the security and compliance options within Office 365. And then the following week, the 26th, we'll be digging into Power BI. Now, the first webinar in September coincides with the Microsoft Partner Conference in Queensland, so there won't be a webinar on that week, but it will continue on after that. Okay, so let's talk about mobile device management, and our agenda today will be basically an overview. We'll look at some policies, cover off adding devices, managing those devices. We'll talk about the Enterprise Mobility Suite, which is an add-on to what comes with by default with Office 365, and then our usual best practices and takeaways. So this is the reality of the world that we live in at this point in time. Although the majority of the share of web traffic these days still resides with laptops and desktops, you'll see that mobile devices and tablets are making up a larger percentage of that. Now, the important figure to consider here, or the point to note here, is around the growth rates, which you'll see in the bottom corner there, basically around facts like the desktop options there are decreasing at basically a rate of 13% year on year, whereas the growth rate of the mobile phone is growing at 40% and the tablets at 17%. So more and more devices are becoming mobile, less and less people are dependent on their desktop and the traffic. So mobile device management is a very, very important part of any IT business these days, and especially a reseller's business. Many people who are currently MSPs look after static machines in locations for customers, desktops. That, in my opinion, is moving more and more to a desire or a need to manage devices that are out in the field that are being used by people all over the place, from people out on the workplace to people working from home. The business wants to be able to provide the same level of control, the same level of protection and compliance on these mobile devices, as well as what it's been experienced or have on the desktops and the laptops. So let's talk about the availability of the product. The first thing to realize is that the mobile device management suite is available in all Office 365 suites. So you may not be aware as yet, but there is mobile device management built into every Office 365 tenant, and that can be easily enabled and then utilized. This one that is provided with Office 365 allows the basic management of common devices like Windows Phone, Windows 10 devices now, so desktop, tablet style Windows 10 machines and phones, and iOS and Android devices. So it's pretty much got the whole range of mobile devices covered. Now, if you want additional functionality, which we'll dig into and show you, you need to look at adding on what's known as the Enterprise Mobility Suite. So the Enterprise Mobility Suite basically is a number of products. One of those is Microsoft Intune, that gives you enhanced software deployment to devices, greater compliance, and more security around the product. It also provides, the Enterprise Mobility Suite also provides additional items such as Azure Active Directory Premium. So you get Azure Active Directory free when you get Office 365, which we've talked about in a previous webinar. But if you want more features, you can certainly look at the Enterprise Mobility Suite, which gives you Azure Active Directory Premium. So Azure Active Directory Premium gives you enhanced reporting, so you can look at deeper dive into the reporting on your mobile devices, where they're logging in from, locations, how often they do that. So more depth in reporting. You also get more advanced features around the single sign-on portal, also more features such as password write back. So you can actually write back from your Office 365 identities back to on-premise ADs if you have that set up, provided you have obviously Azure AD Connect installed and also an Azure AD Premium. So again, remember, more features for device manager available with the Enterprise Mobility Suite, and that suite also comes with additional products like Azure Active Directory. So here's a comparison for you of the management features you get with Exchange Active Sync, mobile device management for Office 365, and then the premium product being Microsoft Intune. So as you see, Active Sync can manage the basic inventory, can do a remote wipe, so that does a whole device wipe. So remember that, it wipes the whole device, anything personal and business. It can enforce PINs, and it can also do self-service password requests. But beyond that, in the mobile device management for Office 365, you can, for example, use the policies there to generate reports of things that aren't compliant. You can determine whether machines have been jailbroken, and you can remove application data while keeping the user's personal data in place. So rather than being a whole machine wipe, it will basically wipe just the corporate data, and we'll cover how you do that. Then if you want the full application suite, you need to look at obviously purchasing or adding on the Microsoft Intune ability, which comes with the Enterprise Mobility Suite typically. Now, one of the things you'll see here that it provides is, for example, down here is the ability to prevent cut, copy and paste data from company apps to personal apps. So what that means is that a user can't, for example, go into a document they received in their corporate Office 365 email, copy the contents of that, and then paste it into the general note app that comes with a desktop, or whether it comes with something like iOS. That copy and paste facility can be disabled, provided that they have Windows Intune installed. So if you want that level of control, if you want that level of reporting and tracking, then you need to look at Windows Intune. But again, notice that mobile device management for Office 365 does provide a number of additional features over the traditional Exchange Active Sync. Okay, so Office 365 is aiming to keep the data safe. So way it achieves that using the mobile device management is it manages the conditional access. So this allows you to, by default, go in and set up security policies on devices that will connect to Office 365. This will ensure things like your corporate email and your documents can only be accessed by phones and other devices that are compliant, that you have managed, that have actually been enrolled within the Office 365 system. So this means that you can't take a rogue device, one that isn't connected or one that isn't approved, add it to Office 365 and start basically taking the data out and using that elsewhere. The second option here is that you've also got the ability to manage the devices. So again, you can enforce things like device level PIN lock. You can restrict whether jailbroken machines can connect to the Office 365 environment. So typically jailbroken machines may be a vector for malicious software or some sort of ability to steal intellectual property. You want to be able to control that, and you can do that again with the device management that is provided by the MDM solution in Office 365. And the third thing about keeping data safe is you can do what's known as a selective wipe. So what you can now do is, if a user leaves or if a user loses their device, you can now initiate a selective wipe or a complete wipe. So if they do lose their devices, you can certainly wipe the whole device as you have been before. But if a user leaves the organization, they want to keep their personal information, their personal photos, their personal documents, You want to, however, remove all the corporate information. So using the MDM solution with Office 365, you can certainly target just the corporate information that's held in Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business, and leave the user's personal data on that device. We're seeing this because more and more environments are encouraging or moving towards a bring your own device. So the company, rather than supplying its designated tablets, everybody has their own preference or a device they wish to bring. So again, this means that they can bring their own device, basically enroll it in the Office 365 mobile device management, and then the corporate or the admin can control that in a way that they can ensure the information is always where it needs to be. Okay, so again, how do we go about enabling this inbuilt device management in Office 365? It is very straightforward. What you need to do is when you log into the admin portal in Office 365 as a global administrator, on the left-hand side you will see a menu. On that menu option, you should see an option there which I've highlighted called Mobile Devices. So if you select that, this will then take you to a screen displayed here that will talk about setting up mobile device management for Office 365. By default, it is disabled. All you need to do basically then is select the Getting Started button you see there. And then what it will take is it will take a short amount of time for that to be configured. In some cases, as indicated on the message there, it may take a few hours, but generally I have not seen that to be the case. I've seen generally for it to be enabled very quickly for most tenants. But be aware that it may take an extended period of time depending on how many users that you have currently inside your tenant. Now, once it has been enabled, you will then see the mobile device management area displayed as we see here. So what you'll see is a number of links, and over on the right-hand side, you'll see that we haven't currently got a device certificate for our iOS devices. So if you need to support iOS devices, what you'll need to do is basically click on that option there that says Manage Settings. And what that will do is that will take you into this option here about managing the devices for Apple or getting the right certificate. And you simply click on the setup option there, and then that will step you through going out to Apple. It will step you through the ability to create an Apple device. It will give you a wizard steps to uploading your certificate or uploading what can be created a certificate from Office 365 and then creating that in Apple and then downloading that and then again inserting that into Office 365 so that then your Apple devices will have a valid certificate. When you do create a Apple certificate here, do remember that you will need to have an Apple ID. So you'll probably need to create an Apple ID which is typically tied to an email address. So make sure that you have that in place before you go out and get your Apple certificates. Now, I have written a blog post that covers that in more detail. So again, there is the link for that. Remember that the slides will be made available after the event. So again, you'll be able to get access to that link once we've completed the session. Now, once we've done our Apple devices, we then again go in here and you'll see that I get a nice green check mark indicating that the certificates for iOS are now valid. You'll see that they have an expiry date. Typically, they are a 12-month cycle. So once you get beyond that, you will need to go in and renew those certificates. Now, once we've done that, we need to then go in and create what's called policies for our devices. So we've enabled our device management, but now we need to go in and set the policies that will be pushed out to the devices that determine how we manage that. Now, you'll see there's a link there, Manage Device Security Policies and Access Rules. So we need to select that, and that will again take us into an environment where we again give our policy a name, so a generic name, and then we can then go in and choose the access requirements for that policy. Now, you'll see the list of options that are currently available on the screen. So you can enforce, for example, the ability to require a password. You can prevent simple passwords. You can, again, force PINs. Again, you can have password expiries. And one of the most common ones, which is checked by default, is to require that data is encrypted on devices. So a lot of devices don't have data encryption enabled as yet. So by checking that and then applying that to the machines, the devices, that will then force them to go through the process of encrypting devices. So an example was I used an Android phone to do the setup. It basically wasn't encrypted, wasn't really sure on how to do that successfully. Applied that policy to it by joining it to Office 365, and then it basically prompted me to say I wasn't compliant. Please push the button here or accept this to encrypt my device. Encrypted the device for me, rebooted, and then I knew it was compliant. So again, makes it very, very easy to do that sort of thing. All right, so again, remember, it can also note here that if you have a device that doesn't conform to the security policies, it will obviously allow that access but report a violation by default. But if you want, you can change that option there and select it to block access and report any of the violations. So maybe you don't, once you've got it all set up for those users, you don't want them to be able to access it with a rogue device. You would simply change that option and block any devices that are not in line with the policy, that options that you set here. Now, once you've done the policies, the requirements for your devices, you then need to go in and define the configuration. So you can go in and, for example, require a encrypted backup. You can block things like backing up to cloud services. You can stop photo synchronization. Things like screen caps you may want to block as well, because people may decide they want to take a screenshot of the corporate information and then forward it on. Again, you can control all that. So remember that, as it notes down the bottom here, that the settings will be configured on the user's devices, and violations will be available to you directly in a report. Now, once we have set up those two options, the configuration and the policies there, we then need to apply that policy. Now, the way that we apply it in Office 365 is we need to create a security group or multiple security groups. So in this case, I've created just a single security group, and I'm going to apply this policy to that group. Now, I can obviously create as many different policies as I want, and I can apply them to as many different security groups as I choose. So maybe you have a policy for people who are road warriors, who are always out in the field and need the devices to be more secure. Perhaps you then have another policy for executives who are traveling, again, who may need a bit more flexibility but still need it locked down. So remember, you can have as many different policies as you want, and those policies apply to a security group. So you basically create an Office 365 security group, you add the relevant users into that security group. That security group then goes into the policy for your mobile devices, and when a user inside that security group logs in or enrolls their device in Office 365 mobile device management, that will be applied to them. So it's all controlled basically through security groups. Okay, so once we've set all that up, the next thing is we need to get devices enrolled into this. So basically what a user would do is once they're in that security group that we've noted, they would automatically be pushed an email to their device. In this case, I've pushed it to an iPad, and it basically says you need to enroll your device because it is now going to be covered by the corporate policy, and this is the way that device, we want this device to connect to Office 365. So all they need to do obviously is follow the steps in this email. Again, the first step in the process there is to click on the Enroll Your Device option. Now, basically what will happen in this case, I'm using the example of an iPad. So what they're doing is they would click on that, and then they would follow the steps here. So they need to then enroll the device, and you'll see in the top right hand corner there's an enroll process. They'll need to log in with their Office 365 credentials to verify that. And what basically is happening in the background is that the Microsoft Intune corporate portal app is being loaded onto their device. Now, this is the basic Intune app that allows them to manage their device and control it, and basically have the policies applied to it. So this will be installed on the device. The user will be prompted to install it, so they're able to see basically what's going on. So once they finish that enrollment, the device is then part of Office 365 and then has the policies applied to it. Now, once they have been enrolled, you'll see in the mobile device management section, you'll now see, in this case, my iPad has been enrolled. I get the operating system version, and I can obviously go in there. When I select it, you'll see on the right-hand side, I have the ability to do a full wipe or to do a selective wipe. So again, if I choose full wipe, it's going to remove all the data, personal and corporate, from that device. If I select the selective wipe, it will simply remove things like OneDrive for Business, Exchange Online, the Microsoft apps, those sort of things as well. So again, once it's enrolled, you as an administrator or an administrator of the Office 365 tenant can then manage those devices and typically perform full wipes or selective wipes. Now, what can a user do? So what a user can do is basically log in to the website there, portal.manage.microsoft.com. They log in with their Office 365 credentials, and out of the box they will get a very basic Windows Intune device portal. So you'll see in this case I have my Android device and I have my iPad. Now if I select on any of those, I'll have a limited number of things that I can change as a user. I can unenroll them from there if I want, if I no longer want them on the policies by the company, and it gives me some basic control. Now if I add the Windows Intune subscription to my Office 365, it will light up more features and make more available for the end user as well as the administrator, obviously. So in summary, here is the whole process sort of from end to end. So a new user takes their iPhone 6 and basically they're going to sign into Office 365 via that device. Now, what will happen is when they do that, the device will be identified by Office 365 that is currently not enrolled. So we're going to force enrollment. Then it will then push out the enrollment requirements, an email or whatever, to that device. And the user at step 4 will then have to go through and enroll that device using their Office 365 credentials. Once that's done, that will then be enrolled in Office 365, and then once that's successful, the policy that applies to that user based on their security group will then be pushed down to the device and applied to that item. So the new iPhone 6 will, but once it's enrolled, will have that policy pushed out, which may enforce encryption, may enforce PIN locks, a whole lot of stuff. Then once that policy has been applied and the device is compliant, they will get access to Office 365 documents in there and their Office mobile. So they'll be able to get to corporate email, OneDrive for Business, all that sort of stuff will be available to them. Okay, so again, the Microsoft Office 365 reports the device is compliant, basically puts the user and the device they're using under management, and again now will allow access to the corporate information. And again, the final step is obviously that the iPhone 6 can now get access to any of the documents in Office 365, whether via email or via the apps like the PowerPoint, Excel, or Word app. So again, that's the whole process, sort of end to end. In enrollment doesn't take very long, does require some user involvement, obviously, to enroll the device, log into it using their Office 365 credentials. But once they've done that, basically everything is then handled at the back end once you have configured it in your environment. So what apps can we control out of the box with Office 365 mobile device management? Well, as you can see here, what we get on the Windows Phone is ActiveSync and Exchange Mail. On iOS 7 and above, which is sort of the minimum for this, we get, again, the Exchange, ActiveSync, and the Mail, but we also get the ability to control Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and the OneDrive app on that device. Over on Android, so it has to be version 4 or above, we're going to get the Exchange, ActiveSync, and the email client, the native email client control. We're also going to get, again, OneDrive and the business apps available for us to control. So it means you can control what those documents are able to see, what information they store, and again, when we do a selective wipe, that information will automatically be removed from those accounts. So if we have a device on iOS 7 who is using the inbuilt Apple Mail client there, and that will basically push them a profile, the unique profile for Office 365, which you will control through your mobile device management. When you do a selective wipe, that account will be removed along with any of the data that was there as well. So again, you're getting control of the Microsoft apps that they download, but you're also getting control of the dedicated apps such as the Mail app for iOS. So the add-on here that we have, once you have used the what's available for free in the mobile device management space, is the option, as I mentioned, to add on the Enterprise Mobility Suite. So the Enterprise Mobility Suite basically bolts on to the Office 365 environment and gives you control over identity, better control and management security on your devices, your apps as well. Now, what does that include? As I mentioned, it includes Azure AD Premium. Azure AD Premium gives you advanced reporting. It gives you advanced user control. It extends the ability of the Azure single sign-on portal, and it allows you to do things potentially like password write back using Azure AD Connect with your local Active Directory. You also get Azure Rights Management. So what that means is you can now start controlling what users can do with those documents. So they are allowed to obviously read the documents and view them, which is part of the mobile device management. But if you want to stop them forwarding those documents or maybe emailing them out using their corporate account to other people, you can now enforce that. You can say that, for example, users cannot, forward emails on. They can prevent users from doing, allowing them to be printed out or whatever. So again, Azure Rights Management is also included in the Enterprise Mobility Suite. And finally, as I mentioned, you get the full version of Microsoft Intune incorporated in this mobility suite, which is going to increase the abilities that you receive with the mobile device management. So let's have a quick look at some Intune features. So it's going to give you enhanced mobile device management. So here's an example of one feature, just one additional feature that it can provide to you. It can deploy certificates, do your Wi-Fi, VPNs, and do all your email profiles automatically once you have the device enrolled. It also does mobile application management. So rather than just managing purely the device, it will also manage the applications on that device. So for example, you may set it up to deny access to specific URLs from being accessed. So let's say that you don't want users to access Facebook or maybe a news website or something overseas. You certainly can do that through Windows Intune using the mobile application management component of that. And again, it's very much about setting up policies and then pushing them down to each device as required. And one of the big features that Windows Intune will bring to you is, apart from mobile device management, it will also give you the ability to manage traditional desktop PCs. So, for example, here's what one feature that it can provide the desktop machines. It can simplify your administration, allow you to push out software and configuration, manage things like the Windows firewall, do all the stuff that a lot of people are using, maybe group policy to do that, but Intune will give you that feature as well, combined with all these other features in a single pane of glass, tied in to the existing Office 365 identity environment. So users log in to their Windows Intune, enroll the devices, they get their own little portal to control their devices if they want, and you can control all these features and more using policies with the Windows Intune add-on feature that comes with the Enterprise Mobility Suite. So let's have a look at some best practices here as we round off. I would suggest that you enable Office 365 mobile device management. It's free. Certainly do it on your own partner internal use rights environment. Have a go with it. Enroll some devices. It's easy enough to move them in and out of that. But again, get a free idea of this. Remember that it's applied via security group, so add a user into the security group. You don't have to apply it to every user automatically, just add them to security group and it'll only be applied to that login. So a great way to test it on your own internal use rights, but also maybe with some clients who are willing or very interested in that sort of feature. You can also sign up for free accounts of Office 365, Intune, and Azure AD Premium. So if you really want to get to grips with what the mobile device management does and maybe what Intune and Azure Premium can offer as an add-on, if you're looking to move to the Enterprise Mobility Suite, you can certainly sign up to a free Office 365 environment at microsoftofficedemos.com. You can again go to Intune and basically sign up for a free login and tie that to the Office 365 login. And then once you've got that working, you can go in and enable a free trial of Azure AD Premium as well to see all those features. So I think there's a great opportunity there to actually get in and use this feature. It won't cost you anything. Easy to set up. Do it in a completely separate trial tenant if you want. Get familiar with it and then look at rolling it into your own internal use rights, and then perhaps looking to roll it out for your customers as well. I would suggest that you look at making part of all Office 365 implementations the installation of the Office 365 mobile app. So a lot of people may not be familiar or aware that there is a dedicated Outlook app, there's a dedicated OneDrive app, there's also dedicated Word, Excel and PowerPoint that all can be connected up to Office 365. Now, even if you don't do that, even if you're not going to use mobile device management, given the growth of the mobility in the market, given the competitive advantage that you want to receive from this, I would suggest that you should incorporate the ability or the idea of installing these applications for your clients on their devices as part of your process. I'm sure they're more than happy to do that and have it done correctly as part of the installation process. So roll it in and obviously create a charge for that and hopefully make some money doing so. And I would suggest to you that you need to keep on top of what's happening with the mobile device management and with Office 365 in general. But the mobile device management has only been enabled. The free options have only been enabled very recently. And obviously I see more and more features being rolled into this offering day in and day out. So I would expect to see more premium features from Windows Intune make their way into the free offering of Office 365, given that it's all under the one umbrella these days. So again, keep your eye on this space for additional features that will be rolled into the free option, the free features of the mobile device management. But of course, you can always add the paid options, but certainly think there'll be more free options coming included shortly. So finishing off here, the takeaways are what you need to think about is, especially in the MSP business, I would be suggesting that you need to think more about devices than desktops. If you're charging a fee to manage desktops, are you charging a fee to manage mobile devices? How are you managing that? How are you doing that? To achieve that and to get the scale, you'll also need some sort of mobile device management platform. Again, the advantage that the Office 365 and Intune can provide is it's all under an existing identity that users may already have in place with Office 365. So if they haven't got something, if they're considering something, it's a great first step to at least get them introduced to that. Customers are looking for ways to secure their environment with so many devices being out on the road and potentially lost, forgotten, given to kids to use, those sort of things, because most businesses these days are simply asking people to bring their own devices and they will configure them for them. So rather than letting corporate data escape into the environment, it's again a better way to manage the devices they have so that corporate data can be controlled. Remember that Office 365 is a free offering from with their mobile device management. So again, use it, promote it, show to users what it involves, what it can be done. They may not take it, but it's important to let them know that it does have the features that are available to it, and that will again spark their interest and potentially prevent them from looking elsewhere for solutions. And again, once you've done all that, look to the upsell to the Enterprise Mobility Suite offering that is available to be added on to any Office 365. Not only do you get improved device management, you get improved desktop management, and you also get advanced features like Azure AD Premium, which again you can bundle a lot more services, a lot more configuration around as well. So certainly look at doing that and look at the features that the Enterprise Mobility Suite can provide. Microsoft is very focused on making this as competitive as possible and encouraging resellers to go out and promote that product. As usual, I've got a list of resources here which will be available in the slides after the event. Again, much of the information that I've covered here is done in more detail in all of these resources here. So as we're ending off, what I'll ask you to do just before you head off for the rest of your day, if you can just answer this poll for me. I find the correct one and just present the poll now. If you can just let us know where your location is just for our records so that we can target the information better to you. Just take a moment. I really appreciate you filling that in, just letting us know what location you are dialed in from. It helps us, again, target the information and make sure we know that we have got the people and the resources in those locations to answer your questions. So I'll give it just a minute or two to complete there. So again, appreciate if you could take a moment to complete that for us. It would be very much appreciated for everybody on the call. All right, so we'll go back to the slides here and just round it off. Again, remember that we have our Data contacts. The best generic email is microsoft.sales@dicadata.com.au. There are a number of contacts there specifically. But again, thank you very much for attending. Remember that next week we'll be focusing on Azure in depth, the week after Office 365 security and compliance, followed by Power BI, and the first week in September there won't be a webinar due to the partner conference. As always, microsoft.sales@dicadata.com.au. If you have any questions of me, you can email me directly via director@ciaops.com. But again, I thank you very much for attending, and I will stop the recording.